So here I am going to show you the changes in the equilibrium levels of real income and interest rate due to a shift either in IS curve or LM curve. You know the very famous and popular presentation of a simultaneous equilibrium in an economy with the help of the IS curve and the LM curve. As you know, IS curve represents the goods market equilibrium and LM curve shows the money market equilibrium. So when these two markets are jointly in equilibrium, then that's called simultaneous equilibrium or equilibrium of the goods market and the money market. And when these two markets come to an equilibrium position, we will get a particular real income and interest rate. Now just I am going to draw here the usual ISLM equilibrium, and this is the x-axis or horizontal axis where we show the level of income, and this is origin, and this is the y-axis or vertical axis where we show the rate of interest. We know that the IS curve slopes downward, showing that there is an inverse relation between the rate of interest and the real income. On the other hand, the LM curve slopes upward. So this is a LM curve which slopes upward, showing a positive connection between interest rate and real income. And this IS curve slopes downward, showing an inverse connection between rate of interest and real income. So here we have the equilibrium, and the equilibrium level of income is marked Y0, and the equilibrium level of interest rate is marked I0. And I label this point, the first equilibrium point, as E. Let it be E. So this is this figure actually shows the ISLM equilibrium, a situation where both the goods and money market are in equilibrium, or it is also called a simultaneous equilibrium. So we know that there are various combinations of real income and interest rate, but this is the only combination, that is I0, Y0 is the only combination of real income and interest rate which has brought the IS market and the LM, that is the goods market and money market, together in equilibrium. So that's the speciality of this ISLM model, and you know it very clearly. Now I am going to explain here what happens to this equilibrium income and interest rate when there is a change in the equilibrium points, or when there is a shift in either IS curve or LM curve. Then what happens to this equilibrium point? That I am going to show you here. Here we presume that the LM curve remains the same. There is no change in the LM curve. There is a LM curve, and we assume that there is no change in the LM curve. So if LM curve is to be changed, when then either the money supply must be raised or reduced, or price level must be changed. Then only the LM curve will be shifted. But for the time being, we are considering no change in money supply and the price level. Therefore, the LM curve remains the same. It remains the same. But we consider a change in IS curve. IS curve can be shifted to the upward direction and downward direction. Upward direction of the IS curve may be caused by an increase in investment, and a downward direction change in IS curve can be caused by a decline in investment. Here we assume that there is an increase in investment, there is an increase in autonomous spending or investment, and as a result, IS curve shifts upward, and this is a new IS curve. This is a new IS curve. Okay, this is IS1, the old one, and this is the shifted IS curve. I label it as IS1. And you must understand that the LM curve doesn't change; it remains as such. No changes in LM curve, But we have made an increase in investment, and this increase in investment has caused an upward shift in the IS curve from IS to IS1. As a result, we have a new equilibrium at this point. I label the new equilibrium point as E1. Let us see what happens to real income and real interest rate at this point. So when the economy moves from point E, the earlier equilibrium point, to E1, we see that there is an increase in income. There is an increase in income to Y1. At the same time, the interest rate has also gone up to I1 from I0. So the takeaway from this discussion is that when there is an increase in investment, and this increase in investment will push the IS curve to the upward direction, causing a change in the equilibrium of the ISLM model from point E to E1. And this change in equilibrium point from E to E1 has caused an increase in the level of income from Y0 to Y1 and an increase in rate of interest from I0 to I1. Now I am going to show you an important result of this explanation. The result is that if you closely look at this figure, you can find one thing, that this change in income, which I label as delta Y, the change in income, this change in income is much less compared to this change in investment. This is a change in investment which has resulted in increasing or making an upward shift in the IS curve. So this delta Y is much less compared to delta I. So this we must notice. Why is it so? So if this happens, the result is that we know that delta Y by delta I is nothing but it is a multiplier. It's a multiplier, and you know the multiplier's value, that's 1 by 1 minus MPC, mass per propensity constant. This multiplier is much less. If delta Y is less compared to this delta I, then the multiplier is less. Why is multiplier less? Or why the change in income is much less compared to the change in investment? That we are going to explain here. The reason for multiplier being less is that when investment increases, naturally IS curve will shift upward, okay, upward shift in IS curve, and this will cause an increase in income. And we know that this increase in income will increase the demand for money. And this increase in demand for money will lead to increase in rate of interest. And this increase in rate of interest will bring down investment. And a decline in investment will lead to a decline in income in the next round. This is how the change in income becomes less than the change in investment. That's why multiplier seems much less when IS curve shifts upward. Keeping LM curve constant, that's very important. Here we keep the LM curve constant. If LM curve had been changed, then the result would have been different. That's a different matter. But keeping LM curve constant at this position, when IS curve is shifted to the upward direction, then the consequent result in income, that is delta Y, will be much less than the increase in investment. So multiplier will be becoming more and more less here. And this actually comes out of these two important interpretations. One is that we know that demand for money is a function of two things. That is, demand for money is a function of income and interest rate. And as income increases, we know that demand for money increases. So that's why here, when income increases, demand for money increases because of this relation. Now, investment. Now we know that when demand for money increases, naturally the rate of interest goes up. And when rate of interest goes up, investment comes down. And when investment comes down, income declines. The same thing. So that's why the change in income becomes much less than the change in investment when there is a shift alone in the IS curve from IS to IS1. So this gives you an insight into these into the changes that may be made in respect of the interest rate and the level of income as a consequence of the upward shift in the IS curve.